A year ago, I lined up for the Grand Loop Bikepacking race mass start. My goal was simply to finish. I wanted to experience this epic loop that combined the Paradox, Kokopelli, and Tabeguache trail systems across vastly different landscapes in Colorado and Utah. The route's challenging terrain quickly humbled me, and I realized I hadn't prepared myself well enough for the altitude, the heat, the cardio demands, and the upper body strength I'd need to successfully complete the loop. So I scratched. Just a few months later, I realized I wasn't done with the Grand Loop. I vowed to make changes to my preparation to up my odds of success. I hired a coach. I added strength training and core work. I enlisted my friend Traci to ride the route with me. I revisited my gear to make it easier to hike my bike. I did a practice race. Then, from mid-April to mid-May of this year, I took pet-sitting jobs in Durango and Fruita to work remote and train at altitude. Leading up to the ride this year, I also scouted the route, riding out and back sections at a time, both alone and with my husband who came out for a visit. The scouting sessions not only gave me a chance to check water sources and get a feel for trail conditions, but they also gave me a healthy appreciation for the challenging nature of the route. I knew to respect it. Traci arrived at the Grand Junction Airport on May 16th. Her return flight was on May 25th, so we were on a timeline to complete our trip. After stopping for some on-the-bike snacks, we headed to Paradox Cycle in Naturita for some professional assistance putting Traci's bike together. While Traci was certainly capable enough to assemble her bike herself, Brock's help gave her one less thing to focus on in our whirlwind preparations for leaving the next morning. We stayed overnight at Nukla's Vestal House, which quickly became our gear assembly headquarters. After a test ride and a quick sleep, it'd be time to head out on our adventure early in the morning. Doing this.
Yeah, hold on, we gotta get a picture.
Starting out, we've got an escort from Tim. Hi, Tim.
Oh, hey.
Here we go, Paradox Trail. It's like 47 degrees out, super comfortable. I knew what to expect in the first 10 miles or so of the course. Lots of punchy technical climbs and half a dozen or so hike-a-bike sections. First climb, beautiful. All right, onward. Tim reminded us as we went out to expect progress to be slow, not to get discouraged, and just keep moving. That sounded about right. From pre-riding sections of the route, I estimated our average speed would be about 5.5 miles per hour. That meant that we should be able to make our planned destinations within about 12 hours of moving time each day. We already had a little bit of a wobble and did some extra single track, but we got back on course, kept our cool. In an effort to reduce the weight of our bikes in this beginning section, I carried 1 liter of water on my back and 1.5 liters in my stem bags. Still, this being day 1, I had 4 days of food on my bike, adding to the weight. One down. Oh, like 4 more, or 5 or 6. All right, hike-a-bike, we meet again. Patience. This hike-a-bike wrecked me last year, but this year I had a strategy. I'd take my panniers off and hike them up separately when the trail was the steepest, then go back and push my bike. I'm gonna take my panniers off.
Just kind of do it in stages for me. Trina's way up there already. I can herp your ears up first. Woo!
Ears are off. Slightly lighter. Time to hike. Come on. Want to stay on this rockier stuff on the right because it's so sandy over on the other side. You just keep slipping. This does seem easier with those off. Just retrieving my panniers. It was worth it. It really helped get my bike up the steep part here. Yay! 2 big hike bikes down now. The worst one is over. Okay. Look at the mountain. Hike bike number 3. Onward. It's a noticeable difference between this year and last year. Last year, by this point, I was struggling with the heat, and this year it's so nice. We're definitely taking it at a nicer pace, not trying to rush anything. Managing the effort is really helping too. Tripod. That was like Wild Bill going down that. Supposed to be copper in the rocks, they're green. Descents on the Paradox Trail are often rutted, steep, and full of rocks, demanding attention to avoid crashes or mechanicals. Nevertheless, Traci continuously bombed down them, as she does on this one. Pretty. We made it through the first single track. Woo! As we exited the local Paradox Trail network, onward, we were happy to be on a road that allowed us to make faster progress. Now it was time to take a scheduled stop to filter a couple liters of water from the Tabeguache Creek. Traci's coach had given her the advice to drink first, then filter. A good reminder that the water we drink is as important as the water we carry. This is the part past Tabeguache Creek, and it's all new to me for this year. At this point, we were riding on trails past the place where I'd turned back the year before. I was stoked to be feeling good still, a strong contrast to my previous attempt. This section, along Wild Cow Mesa and Long Mesa, seemed to be either climbing or descending, dipping down into mostly dried creek beds before scaling the next bluff. Around noon, we stopped at what appeared to be a small horse camp to have lunch. Part of my eating strategy was to have a calorie-dense shake midday to front-load calories for the second part of the day, while also taking on some much-needed hydration. Just had lunch, and we're like mile 24, approaching the creek crossing, I guess. It's coming up before the Coscree Traverse. Looks like there was a fire here not long ago. Traci and I enjoyed seeing clusters of flowers along the route, little moments of life amongst the rocky and often scorched landscapes. So interesting. The contrast with the light green and the burned trees. Near and along the Koski Traverse, the colors, road surfaces, vegetation, and overall terrain varied from mile to mile. So we've been climbing on this sandy surface, and it doesn't look like you're climbing, but you turn around and look behind you and there's a big view behind you. I think we've reached a temporary halt on the climbing. Look at the view. And this breeze cooling us off. And then all hell breaks loose. There were 5 climbs and descents in this area, each briefly revealing an overlook of the terrain before steeply diving down.
Yes. I just caught the rut.
Traci's bike caught a rut and slid out on this steep downhill section. She was okay, but her handlebar left a welt on her calf where it struck her. These steep descents felt nearly as hard to manage as the climbs that preceded them. There were simply no easy miles in this section.
What's up? Oh.
Adding
Hello.
to the struggle, my food bag jostled forward and rubbed my tire. Big Atkinson Creek with all of our little butterfly buddies. Look at them all. Time to filter water. So we're nearing the top of the climb from Big Atkinson Creek, and that was a tough one. Hike a bike, and so steep that at times Traci and I doubled up on a bike, went back for the other bike. So I don't have much optimism that this is gonna get better for a little while. I think it's gonna be up and down and up and down, but we'll see. Worth it! Traci and I continued to count down the climbs and descents, knowing that if we pushed on, we'd eventually make it to an extended downhill section. Careful over here. Crazy landscape.
Hold on, GoPro.
Calm before the storm. We're about to go up that. But right now, we get to enjoy pedaling nicely. Back, wind at our back.
It looks rideable, but it is too loose and sandy. It's even hard to push.
We've reversed roles, and Traci is now the hill bomber of the two of us. She sees a downhill and she just goes. Something tells me that this trail doesn't get a lot of use. We're using it today. We are still on the Koski Traverse, hopefully approaching Big Atkinson Creek. But we are over 9 hours into our ride and we've gone 35 miles. So hopefully that gives an idea of how extremely hard this is. But we're keeping our spirits up and we're doing okay. You can't tell on video probably, but you have to be careful on these descents because it's very sandy and you can slide out really easily. We have slid out. Your back end just hits a rock and boom, you're skidding out. Yeah, I like the looks of this. Down we go. Down, down, down. Down, down. Shoes not clipped in. It's okay. Here we go. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. Down. Let's clip in the shoe now. Oh, there we go. And guess what? Another steep descent. There's no way GoPro is going to show how steep this is, but it is steep. We stopped to filter water at this creek. I took the opportunity to soak my feet in the cold water too. It felt so good after all the hiking from this section. Look at the blue-green dirt. The sides of the mountains are blue-green too. At last, we exited the Koski Traverse and descended for miles towards the Dolores River along the East Mesa Creek. It was a welcome break. Cool little house. We rounded a mesa until we paralleled, then eventually crossed, the North Fork of Mesa Creek, all while we were continuing to descend. Soon after, we met a little friend. This non-venomous western gopher snake chilled out while we took his photo, only starting to coil once we started to leave. We chuckled at his belated attempt to act tough. By now it was late afternoon. We were near water here, but the next water would be in 17 miles. Between us and the next water was a section called the Red Canyon, a 5-mile stretch of what I only knew was steep and rubbly. If it was mostly rideable, and the roads up top were rideable, we could be at our camping spot at the Buckeye Reservoir in a few more hours. That is just so freaking cool. The start of the canyon looked promising, steep but manageable dirt roads. It lured us to move forward. Oh, just checking in. We're still on the Red Canyon climb. This is a kind of nicer part. It has like rock slabs. This entire thing has been pretty much sand and unrideable. But soon the route veered onto a 2-track uphill trail with deep, unrideable sand. We were forced to get off our bikes and hike for 4 miles. Here's what it looks like behind us. Yeah. Okay. And then we reached the highest, steepest, most boulder-strewn hike-a-bike I've seen so far. It took all my strength and the will to get to our next water supply to get up this monster. We reached a flat spot and made the call to stop. We'd been on the move for 14 hours now. The sun was going down and we were still hours from the reservoir. Who knows what's in store? The next morning's plan was focused on getting to the Buckeye Reservoir to refill our now meager water supply. From there, we need to push on to my Plan B goal of Hideout Spring on the Kokopelli Trail in order to keep on our 3 to 4 day schedule, which was what our food supply allowed. It became immediately clear that the trail wasn't going to make things easy for us.
Found our road and it is deep, slightly wet sand. Not the nice gravel we had hoped for. Continuing to work our way to the campground where we wanted to stay last night, but yeah, we'd done 13 hours and we're exhausted and had quite a lot of hike-a-bike still in front of us, so I'm glad we waited till this morning. About 5 more miles to go. We need to get there and resupply with water. We've got like a half a liter each right now, so that'll be nice to fill up. And yeah, pushing on.
Meanwhile, it had started to rain. The view over Paradox Valley, which I'd so looked forward to seeing, now looked ominous.
Up on the plateau over Paradox.
I should take a second to explain that this backcountry route has a single resupply point in Fruita Grand Junction, about 200 miles in. We'd hoped to be there in 3 days, but had packed enough food for 4 days on the trail. Our daily targets ranged from 60 to 80 miles based on the amount of elevation.
You want to look or push on?
Shortly after Traci took this video, I stopped to put on my rain pants. Traci pushed on to get to the reservoir. In the time that I'd stopped, the road turned to mud. I tried to ride, but my chain kept falling off and wouldn't stay on. My tires clogged up with mud, and I stopped to scrape them with my paint stick, like this clip from New Mexico in 2024. I could see from Traci's tracks that she'd made it through. The road changed that quickly. I eventually caught up with Traci, and we made it to the reservoir.
I didn't record video back there, but I got stuck in the mud. My drivetrain got hopelessly dirty, and my chain wouldn't stay on. So it's time to clean my chain off, filter water, regroup. I'm just relieved to be here.
The reservoir had a shallow entrance, so I waded in to wash my bike and filter water. After filtering, we were both cold, so Traci and I took refuge in a pit toilet. We ended up sheltering there in our bivvies for several hours, trying to wait out the rain that was likely gumming up the roads ahead. By now it was apparent that we wouldn't make our Plan B goal of Hideout Spring today, which meant we no longer had enough supplies to continue at all. Our satellite device showed snow and low temperatures overnight, so we refocused our plans on getting to lower elevation. We located the camp host, the only other person out there, and he offered us a ride to Paradox Valley. Messaging with my husband through Garmin InReach, we managed to secure a last-minute rental property for the night. The next morning, I was cleaning my bike again and noticed the source of my drop chain issue. One tooth of my chainring had snapped off, and the two next to it were mangled.
Here goes Traci, go get our car.
With my bike out of commission, Traci volunteered to ride paved roads the 30 miles or so back to Nukla on her unloaded bike to pick up the car. We'd determine our next steps when she returned. Not wanting to give up on our adventure, Traci and I formulated a plan to ride the Kokopelli Trail, starting at the Dewey Bridge. Our new friends Rich and Ann offered to shuttle us back to our car, making it possible. The Chili Pepper Bike Shop in Moab popped on a new chainring for me, and we even ran into fellow looper Karen while we were there. Traci and I spent the rest of the day sightseeing in Moab, including checking out some dinosaur tracks and the view at Fisher Overlook, before heading out to the Dewey campground and setting up our bikes. Sometimes unexpected changes in plans lead to pretty wonderful days.
Kokopelli Trail, woo woo!
Today we'd ride 57 miles to the Juflas campground in Rabbit Valley, stopping for water along the way at the Westwater boat launch. Up first was climbing the Yellow Jacket Canyon area of the Kokopelli Trail.
So we're starting to climb up into the Yellow Jacket area. Should be one of the more challenging things of the day, but it's supposed to be really pretty. So bring it on. We got all day.
Last night, we chatted with our neighbors at the campground, both of whom had just ridden the Kokopelli trail from Fruita. They were exhausted from riding the entire day into a headwind and told us that we'd likely have a much better experience riding west to east.
There's the bridge.
Though it could be technical in spots and sandy in others, Traci and I appreciated that for at least this portion of the trail, we were actually riding our bikes more than we were walking them, unlike our experience on the Paradox portion of the Grand Loop.
Goodness. Rock. I like rock. So cool.
The views of the La Salles, with their jagged, snow-capped peaks, provided a gorgeous contrast to the sandstone rockscapes in the foreground.
Whee!
Overall, we both really enjoyed the variety of riding the Yellow Jacket Canyon had to offer, backing up a great mountain biking experience with an abundance of striking rock formations and jaw-dropping views.
I feel like I'm on the set of Star Wars.
The part of the Kokopelli on the other side of Highway 128 was fast-moving and characterized by arid, cracked land and crumbling hills. It was here that we started to note the wind at our backs, providing an encouraging push to each pedal stroke.
Onward. There's the Colorado River.
One thing I really enjoyed about the Kokopelli Trail was the surprise of encountering sections of single track here and there, intermixed with the two-track, gravel, and even some paved sections. The variety kept me engaged and made the riding fun. And again, it was so nice to actually be riding my bike most of the time.
This part of the trail is right by the river. Oh my goodness. Whee! It's like Minnesota. So cool.
We were fortunate to be riding the Kokopelli when temperatures were moderate, in the 70s and low 80s Fahrenheit, because the lack of shade can make this part of the Grand Loop feel sweltering at temperatures much higher than what we were experiencing. On this day, Traci and I each carried 5 to 6 liters of water to ensure that we could stay hydrated and cool off as needed. We stopped midday to replenish our supply from a tap at the Westwater boat launch. With each liter of water weighing 2.2 pounds, we were adding between 11 to 13 pounds to our rigs. We reached a day-use picnic area in the Rabbit Valley and had dinner. We'd have liked to camp there, but pushed on a couple more miles to set up camp at the Juflas campground. The next morning, we freed our bikes from the horse corral and began what would be our last day, riding from Rabbit Valley to Fruita along the Kokopelli Trail.
Where are you going, Tracy?
We're going to Fruita.
You're going the wrong way, though. Yeah. Whee! Goodbye, campsite.
Early on, we were treated to a ride through a canyon that featured scooped-out walls and sculpted ledges. Then we climbed out and settled onto a gently climbing gravel road.
Back there we saw what I thought was a coyote at first, and then realized it was a young pronghorn. And it had the zoomies. Its mom or dad was just standing still, and it was like zooming all around it. It was really cute. Look at this. A minute ago, it was like all canyons. And now it's just like widespread prairie. So vastly different. Just found ourselves some single track. This is a surprise. River. Nice. Where are we going? Switchback.
What had started as a gentle single-track trail along the top of a ridge soon turned aggressively technical as it attempted to rapidly transport us from ridge to valley.
Oh, that's a nope. Things got a little steep and rumbly. Like the trail makers got in a hurry to get down the hill. Doesn't look to be getting too much better that way either. Just chunkery. Oh, hey, buddy. Hi, Tracy. Taking our bikes for a walk. Oh, almost down. There we go. Oh, cool. Just like in this fertile valley here. Trying to avoid getting stabbed by these little bushes. Little lizards jumping out from out in front of us. All right, crossing Salt Creek. Because of its name, we will not be filtering water. And now we climb.
Here goes Amtrak.
At this point, we were entering Fruita's local trail network, Kokopelli Loops. But there was a price for admission,
Sure?
and I don't mean money.
We're in the Fruita single track system now. Kokopelli loops. Starting Lions Loop. Starts out as a 2-track. And that is where we just came from.
I've ridden these trails many times with my son and husband and have always loved the combination of stunning views and rowdy single track. This is the first time, however, that I've ever ridden the trails with a loaded bike, and the experience is quite different.
Chunky part.
Always a hiker bike.
Always a hiker bike. Look at that. Oh, pretty.
This is a part of the trail called Mary's Loop. It brings us back to the trailhead that marks the end of the Kokopelli.
Ew.
We rolled into Fruita and had lunch at the famous hot tomato pizza shop. The next morning, Anne and Rich would take us back to our car, and we'd spend the next 2 days with them in their beautiful Grand Junction home before Traci flew back. I'm full of gratitude for all I got to see and experience on this trip. I got to experience the desert in bloom, something I've always wanted to see. I had a chance to build lasting memories once again with my friend Traci. I was able to test myself and remind myself how resilient I can be. I once again experienced the generosity of the cycling community. And with my combined scouting rides and my rides with Traci, I was able to see a large portion of the Grand Loop this year. I haven't decided whether I'll be back to try the Grand Loop again. I learn more with each attempt, and it seems that eventually that knowledge, combined with a lot of training and a little luck, could get it finished. But I'm okay too if I don't come back. I already see this attempt as a huge success.